exam, and he is also possessing some role in professional societies at a national level. So there are lists are many more, but due to time constraint, I am limiting it to this much. So with this small background, I would like to welcome Dr. Professor Harmit sir. Sir, please, now the dice is yours.
Thank you, Dr. David, for your nice words. So first of all, Dr. Tiwari, I'm going to share my screen. It is first confirm that.
Yes.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. Kindly enable it.
Dr. Salen.
Dr. Tiwari.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
मेरी स्क्रीन वो आपको अलाउ
Dr. Salinder is doing, sir. He's a technical.
Allow, please share, sir. Please share.
Now you can share, sir.
Okay. So it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Badi, is it visible?
Yes, sir. Visible. Kindly make it in a full screen mode.
Okay. Just. Is it okay?
No, sir. Kindly make it full screen mode, sir.
Full screen mode it is now. Screen. स्क्रीन मोड फुल डॉक्टर तिवारी अब दिख रहा नहीं
दिख रहा है सर बट फुल स्क्रीन मोड में नहीं दिख रहा है
हमारी तरफ से तो जस्ट वेट नहीं अपने वालों ठीक है जस्ट वेट इतना फुल स्क्रीन नहीं है 100 का last year. ये क्या है
Okay, sir. It's good.
नहीं इसको
Please change slide, sir.
Tiwari, is it visible now?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. So should I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Also, good morning to all present. So, Dr. Devi, he has already introduced. So, the topic assigned that is promoting agroforestry marketing in India. So, basically, I have divided this presentation into two parts. First, the background part. Second is for promoting agroforestry marketing strategy. So, first of all, why forestry or agroforestry? So, we are aware that if we look back 100 years back, so everything was perfect. Forests were plenty, people were few, nature wonderful, rivers perennial, all was well with our environment. But now the scenario is, we are well versed with the scenario. where we stand with respect to the forest and status of forest. Then next, with respect to the sustainability, why forest or agroforestry is important, then importance of forest, present scenario and policy issues. So with respect to the sustainability, as we all of us know that survival and the well-being of a nation depends upon the sustainable development. So it is a process of social and economic betterment that satisfies the needs and value of all present population without foreclosing future options. So if we talk about the agriculture, immediately after
Sir,
independence,
your slide is not moving.
screen is not moving.
Yeah, slide is not moving, sir.
Okay, from my side, okay, just let me
Reshare कर दीजिए sir.
just one
Stop
second,
sharing and reshare. Stop करके reshare कीजिए sir.
just one wait.
ये वाला सर CCRI वाला ये किसके कोलैबोरेशन से था ये ओपी बोर्ड वाला नहीं फिर हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन किया होगा अटेंड नहीं किया होगा एक मेरे पास आया था ये सर्टिफिकेट आया था तो
Is it?
हाँ सर मूव कराइए सर मूव कर रहा कि नहीं नेक्स्ट करके देखिए
नहीं मूव कर रहा, what's the problem? Just wait one minute. Just wait 1 minute.
Yeah. नहीं था तो दूसरा 14-16
तो हो रही है ना, नहीं इधर उधर नहीं
एक स्टार्टअप वाला मैंने ही कराया था हो सकता है ना किया तो टाइम रहता तो कर लेते हैं रिकॉर्ड ट्रेनिंग आए उसमें कर लो कौन सा सर 600 के 700 पड़ेगा पैसा पड़ेगा
Dr. Prabhat, you can get the slides from sir if there is some issues from his side, so that we can present from our side.
हाँ पीटी कितना है 21 दिन की है 21 दिन अटेंड करना पड़ेगा
यस सर मूव नेक्स्ट
Is it now okay?
और ठीक है पढ़ रही हूँ
Yes, sir, moving.
Moving na?
Yes.
Okay, just okay. So with respect to the, I was discussing with respect to the sustainability. So with respect to the forest especially. So after independence, at the time, the policymaker planners, they took the path of rapid industrialization. As a result of that, lot of pressure on our natural resources, including forests, and to meet the demands of growing society. So just within a span of 15 years, resource crunch with respect to the industrial timber, pulpwood, and wood waste products that was felt. But at that time, our demands and supply, the gap was not that wide, but we were getting the warning signal. So due to rapid increasing population and economic growth of the country, ultimately condition arises to move with less, with associated problems like soil erosion, floods, landslides, silting of reservoirs, and soil and water pollution, etc. So at the time, the slogan was given, protect the forest, wealth or perish. Then now coming to the importance, nothing new. So all of us know that the role of forest, whether it is direct timber, fuel wood, fire, then other minor forest produce tan, dyes, gum, resin, all that medicines. So that we getting from the forest. Then indirect role, nothing new, and developmental role, whether it is in the country GDP or industrial growth, employment generation. So forest has their role. Now coming to the resources, so majority of our forests, they are in the 5 major groups and 16 subgroups. And if we see the scenario of forestry now, because when we will talk about the agroforestry, what is the need of the agroforestry? So present, what is the scenario of forestry? So at the world level, we have almost 510 million square kilometer area. And total, yes, please. Of the total geographical area of the world, out of it 1 million square kilometer, that is ocean, 140 remaining 149, that is 29%. That is we have land, and of this 30% of 149, that is arable land, almost 20 to 22% each in desert, mountains, and glacier under the, so almost 62% under these 3 categories, and 8% that is not available for cutting, that is under permanent road, buildings, and all that. Now coming to India, so total geographical area, that is 328.8 million hectare. Out of this, almost we have 23.5% 23.5% area under forest, that is as forest area. Then forest cover, it is almost 21.7% of the total geographically. And the condition of our forest, see, it is very clear from the pictures, that is the majority of our forests, they are in the category of open forest. So almost 9.34% of the total geographical area, that is under the category of open forest. Then dense forest, moderately dense forest, we have 9.33%, and very less percentage, that is only 3.04%, that is under the category of very dense forest. That means the canopy more than 70%, and scrub 1.42, and almost mangrove less than 1%. So then next, this is the availability of the wood from the natural forest. Very less quantity we are getting the first. So the majority of the availability of the wood, that is TOF. So here we can guess that lot of scope for the availability or wood production from the conventional forest. As all of us know that our natural forests, they are now primarily being managed for protection point of view, not from production. So then bamboo, next is the import. Almost we are importing 18.01% from the other country, that is. Then next, this is including the availability of timber wood as well as fuel wood. So majority, the requirement is for fuel wood, that is around 385 million cubic meters. So in timber wood as well as fuel wood, in total, the total this availability, that is 456.15. Next, so at global level, around 6 billion cubic meters, that is the requirement for demand for wood. Then this is a brief summary of demand projection of industrial wood from short rotation, short and long rotation species. So earlier in 2000, the trend was for shorter rotation, long rotation species, but now the trend is reverse. Now the trend, almost the majority, that is the wood, industrial wood, we are getting from the short rotation species. Then the forestry situation peculiar in India, because 90% of the forest area owned, managed by the government, and 90%, 97 that is owned by the government, and 90% of the wood waste products manufactured in private. So forest not easily accessible to industries for raw material. Then what are the policy issues? So we have different legislative approaches. So starting from the Indian Forest Act, then National Forest Policy 1894, then 52 Forest Conservation Act 1980, National Forest Policy 80, then Forest Rights Act 2006, then National Action Plan on Climate Change 2008, then National Agroforestry Policy 2014, and a revision of National Forest Policy. So these are the under which different targets has been given for the minimum area under the forest cover. Then what is the solution now? That is TO, plantation cum farm forestry or agroforestry. So ultimately, the cost of plantation timber procurement is lower than that of timber derived from the forest. Then plantation timber has demonstrated its suitability and commercial viability for most plywood applications. Then the approximate availability of plantation timber will moderate logistic cost. Then timber plantation cum agroforestry model will provide farmers with a superior sustainable livelihood. And now there is a yes, please. Any problem?
Please mute yourself.
Dr. Tiwari, should I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can
Okay.
please
So
proceed.
there is a forest management in India paradigm shift. One means from production and consumption to a balanced approach. Next. So from the agroforestry point of view, that is, we have ecological security and meeting the basic needs, then industrial requirement and ecological revival. So then approximately, if we see 1.2 billion people, that is 20% of the total world population, depends to a large extent on agroforestry products and services for their survival. Screen is not moving now. What's the problem?
Yes, sir. You can proceed, sir. It is visible.
Visible, but from my side it is not moving. But I don't know what is the problem.
Okay. Maybe some low bandwidth issue.
Maybe.
Mr. Pankaj Kumar, please mute yourself. Mr. Pankaj Kumar.
So if 5% of the earth surface is brought under intensive farm forestry with average yield of 10 cubic meter per hectare per annum, it will meet the total wood requirement. Next, now I purposely brought the Punjab model with respect to the agroforestry, because if we see the total area under forest in Punjab, that is 6.12%, almost, and 80 to 84% that is net sown area. So why? And Punjab is the classical, Punjab or Haryana is the classical example in the country, which are with respect to agriculture protection, whether it is wheat, rice, especially Punjab. Punjab is contributing from 28 to 59% in paddy, and 33 to 75% in wheat for the last 6 decades in the Central Food Reserve. And at the same time, what producing more and more, what has happened with our natural resources, our this water in the southwestern part of the Punjab that is not worth for drinking. We are pumping lot of lot of chemicals and insecticide and pesticide into our system. Our biodiversity is totally due to whether it is agriculture or your forestry. We are adopting mostly monoculture, so has adverse effect on the this biodiversity. And with respect to forestry, we are at the number last with respect to forest and tree cover in the country. So at one side, we are among the leading state with respect to agriculture, poultry, mushroom, then honeybee production, mechanization. But at the same time, we are at this is a matter of concern for all of us, and the government is stressing hard for diversification of agriculture, especially the high input crops, wheat, paddy, sugarcane, with low input demanding crops, whether it is vegetable, horticulture, or agriculture, pulses, then oilseed crops, and agroforestry is also one of the options for diversification. Now, then with this, it will meet the targets. The target given for the Punjab, that is almost, because we have a handsome package of population to feed that population. The target to have area under forest cover is 20%. So almost we have 6% area under forest, 84% that is private land holding. So how we can achieve the 20% target? So Punjab is the classical model. So until and unless we promote agroforestry, it is not possible, because 6% we have forest area, 84% with private, total 90%, then 8% almost unavailable for cultivation, and hardly less than 1% that is fallow lands. So only the option left with us, that is agroforestry. So next, so this is the improvement, how to increase the forest and tree cover, that is improvement in existing forest resources. So rehabilitation of degraded lands and incorporation of tree with crops in proper geometry and strategy. Then this is the traditional rotation rice wheat in Punjab. So agroforestry is the only, and in Punjab we are have the commercial agroforestry models based on different tree species, and majority they are just popular weeds agroforestry. Then different crops we are growing, just have a view of different, that is popular garlic, popular with this sarso mustard, colocasia, turmeric, marigold, guava. Then horticulture models, successful models. Then horticulture model, these are the then other successful options, honeybee production, likewise, then floriculture also. So these are the different models. So potential indicator to use agroforestry assessment, ecological, economical, and social, all of us know, nothing new. So for second green revolution, focus is on agroforestry models. It has a great future role for ensuring environmental stability and meeting sociological and economic objectives for meeting sustainable development goals. So basic problem with the promotion of agroforestry or adoption of agroforestry, these are the general lack of strategic direction, demand, supply, forecast. As such, we have not any regulated or authorized agencies. Then access to high planting stock. This is the biggest drawback. As such, we don't have any quality planting supplier of the highly quality planting stock. In some states, just like in Tamil Nadu, They have an agroforestry consortium under that they are supplying both from the clonal as well as through the superior seeds, the quality planting stock. Then over regulation restriction on timber harvesting and movement. These are the restrictions by the our policies and legal issues. Then market and price support system to ensure right prices and smooth market fluctuation. And Punjab is the example for this, especially with respect to poplar. We have witnessed poplar rates per quintal from 300 to 1400 rupees per quintal. So presently, if we last 20 years, we look back 20 years, so in 2003-4, poplar prices at that time were around 1000 rupees per quintal. Then it came down in 14-15 to 300-400. Now presently again it is 300, 1300 and 1400 per rupees per quintal. So then technical know-how and right choice of the species, that is especially the SAUs, state agriculture universities, they are doing their best, but as such there is no direct linkage. This is just like your horticulture in an agriculture department, we have direct linkage with the line department of the university, state agriculture department and state horticulture department. But in case of forestry, the whether it is forestry exclusive forestry institutes or the colleges or the department, they have not direct licensing with the state forest department. So this is again a big drawback in the popularization of the agroforestry, that timber import liberalization and illegal logging, then lack of extension support. Then coming to the marketing agroforestry products. So first of all, that is analyze your current situation. That is the SWOT analysis. So under SWOT, though for agroforestry we know the SWOT analysis, but the first the strength, weakness, opportunity and threats analysis include an examination of both internal factor, which include strength and weaknesses, and external factor, that is opportunities and threats that can have an influence on the success of our enterprise. So this is, so basically it is the, because whether for strength, weakness, threat or opportunities, so all they are based or discussed on the basis of ecological, economical and social parameters. So if we have to conclude, so it is the largely the social factor, in particular the distribution of benefits and costs, that determines whether a farmer view agroforestry as their business enterprise or not. Then now this is a model given by Michael Porter of Harvard University. So it is applicable everywhere. So basically, so the forces and the questions, mostly that is the potential entrants. So for this, how difficult it is to enter the market and what resources are needed. So barriers to entry are advantages for the existing firms in comparison to the new entrants, like high startup cost, then priority knowledge and learning curve, cost advantage for existing firms. Then next, that is suppliers. First was the potential entrant, second was the suppliers. So for supplier, bargaining power of the supplier, so for which who can provide the needed supply, or who has more control in the supply chain, or can you choose from a variety of supplier. thus getting competitive prices for the supply you need. If prices get too high, can you use another input? If not, can you produce it yourself? So next, that is buyers, and buyers, that is bargaining power of the buyers. Who is going to buy my product or products? Would it be better to deliver directly to consumer or to use intermediaries? Or how much control does the buyer exert? Who are the final customers and what are their needs? Are you competing against a respected brand name that creates a higher value for its products? So next, the final, that is substitute complements. So are my products in any way unique, or can they be easily substituted by other products with a similar function? If buyers decide your products are too expensive, will they buy another product? And finally, in the central, that is industrial competitors, that is rivalry among existing firms. So who are the competitors and what are their competitive advantages? What can I do better than them? Are you competing against a respected brand name that creates a higher value for its products? So this is a model which for assessment of any industrial or any enterprise. So the promotion of agroforestry marketing strategies for agroforestry. So under this, a marketing strategy, we can say it refers to a business overall game plan to facilitate the buying and selling of its products or services. So we can say the marketing strategy determine how to reach prospective consumers and turn them into consumers. So for agroforestry, we can, by linking trees and agriculture. So agroforestry enables, we can say, the farmer to generate a diversified income from the production of a variety of agricultural products. So these products can be produced from the trees and from the countless combination of trees or shrubs. So agriculture crops and often livestock products as a part of the agroforestry system. So one agroforestry farm, we can say that one from a unit, that is one from the one agroforestry farm can, for example, produce, we can say from horticulture, it may be mango, coffee, nuts, then timber also, honey, and many more, and fodder for dairy cattle also. And at the same time, agroforestry system protects and conserve biodiversity, soil, water, wildlife habitat, and other natural resources. Apart from increased climate change, resilience, and mitigation potential, an important benefit for agroforestry farmers is strengthen economic resilience, as agroforestry offers multiple income streams at a different time. So next, that is now main barriers of agroforestry market systems. So main is the underdeveloped markets are the main challenge or the main challenges for agroforestry value chain and market system to be sustainable and successful. So most agroforestry products lack connections to market due to we can say poorly developed policies that tend to focus on conventional agriculture methods such as monocropping systems. So next, we can say the adequate farming techniques exist but are in many cases not accessible for the farmers. And in order to provide sufficient income to the farmers, agroforestry value chain and market systems need to become more efficient and profitable. We can say, for example, by supporting smallholder farmers to organize themselves in cooperatives, and smallholders need access to finance and advisory services, as agroforestry farming system require investment in technical skills and skills for marketing of products. So in general, there is generally inadequate awareness among decision makers about these barriers within market system, and a lack of coordination between stakeholders value chain nodes. As agroforestry involves various stakeholders and value chains across both agriculture and forestry sector, so this is important. That is, the institutional mandates are often unclear and divided between agriculture and forestry streams or ministries or administration. So this, just a minute, one phone. सत श्री अकाल सर. हाँ ठीक है सर. मैं सर 10 आधे घंटे बाद मेरी ऑनलाइन प्रेजेंटेशन चल रही है, जहां से मैं उस तो बाद ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਪਰਸਨਲ. नहीं मैं ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਜਾਊਂਗਾ, ਬਸ ਮੈਂ ਜਰ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੋਕਤੀ ਮੈਂ. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਸਰ, ठीक मैं मिलता ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰ. ठीक. Sorry, this was the phone from my dean. So what was that? That is the main divide between the agriculture and forestry. So this can lead to poor ownership for support to agroforestry systems. So if these barriers are resolved, agroforestry can offer various economic, environment, and social benefits. So next we can say the applying a market system approach. So due to their natural complexities, agroforestry market system connections are not as clear or developed as in singular that is in case of agriculture, that is staple crop value chains. So if flexible market system approach can be applied or developed to connect to build value added services and enhance market access among the smallholder producers and agribusiness while minimizing direct action that risk further distorting the market system. So next we can say, so linking farmers to market. So in order for agroforestry system to be adopted by the farmers, they need to be able to make a livelihood from the farm. So supporting farmer organizations can strengthen farmers' economic resilience in various ways. For example, it strengthens their position in negotiating prices and enables them to access finance and training, input services, and market information. And inclusive market system approach focuses on connecting farmers to local and regional markets, which I have shown to have the highest positive impact. Then traceability as a market incentive. This is again very important. The export of agroforestry products to international market could offer higher income to the farmer for their top quality products. One option is to focus on specialty products, such as, for example, such as organic farming, organic coffee. Then supporting diverse market system. It focuses on agriculture, forestry, commodities, and value-added downstream products that can be developed from those goods. Then direct marketing of agroforestry products. So that is the farmer markets. So for farmer market, that means for it is applicable
हिसाब से
of,
डॉक्टर श्रीवास्तव कहते हैं कि आपके जो क्वालिफिकेशन है वो एकदम निहायत गलत है, क्योंकि आपने बीए लिटरेचर करके एमए इंग्लिश लिटरेचर नहीं किया, आपने बीएससी से एमए इंग्लिश किया है। तो
ये something is, hello, should I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
हाँ, कोई बीच से आवाज आ रही थी, मैं क्या पता नहीं।
Our participant.
कोई नहीं, okay then. So farmers market, so it is applicable for low volume high value forest products, and farmer market is used to describe a market where farmers sell directly to the consumer. What this market system could also be called as a community market. So community supported agriculture, so it is a CSA is a growing and purchasing partnership between producer and member of the local community. So this system works best for farms that produce a variety of vegetables, or it can function for farm that include agroforestry products as well as. Then internet market, this is nothing new. Now, you know, it is a digital era. So now we can take the advantage of this digital. So internet market, then on-farm sale. So the on-farm sale, maybe you can call the traders, and then auctions on farm, and third we can have the cut and carry. But the disadvantage of cut and carry, which we are experiencing at our place, because Yamuna Nagar in Haryana, Jagadri area, that is the big hub, or the people from the surrounding states, so they are selling their this agroforestry, especially this industrial wood in these markets. But the problem is that once you cut and carry the material, then lot of these firms, they come with so many problems that the material which the log size is not appropriate, and it will create lot of wastage. Our blade size is not fit, will not fit into the size you have taken, so like that. So then unauthorized, in otherwise the government in at different states, the government is trying to regulate this marketing, and in Punjab we have 3 markets were proposed under the government, but presently practically only one market that is operationally operated, that is in the foothills, in the foothills of this is Shivaliks. Rest in Ludhiana, that is not operating. Otherwise the illegal, other unofficial systems of marketing, that is prevalent. Then recommendations to policy and decision making. So investment in the following aspects could boost the adoption of agroforestry and other sustainable production systems that are needed for diversity and climate resilience. So first is the linking farmers to the markets. So that means establishing fair market connection is central to the development of agroforestry value chains. So, and this is most effectively, or this can be effectively done by focusing on linking farmers with specific attention to vulnerable and marginalized groups. So, because these are the most vulnerable group, the farmers having very marginal land or very small land holding. So our focus should be on these groups to local markets and using regional and export market for top quality and niche products. Then next is enabling knowledge exchange and capacity building. So agroforestry requires knowledge of complex agroecological system and diverse market system, since it includes two or more than two components. So it is in a sense, it is a very complex system itself, and there is a need for adequate extension services and technical assistance, as well as supporting smallholder farmers to organize themselves in order to access markets. Then improved communication on the benefits of agroforestry. So agroforestry is gaining increased recognition worldwide. However, in order to recognize by the end consumer, agroforestry products need strong marketing, added value with specific labels. Different labeling can be suitable for different markets, and they need to be traceable and trustworthy. And last, government policy incentive for diversified farming system. So under this, so agroforestry involves diversified farming system that require a long-term engagement, investment, and farmers need incentive in order to convert to agroforestry practices. So government policies to promote agroforestry exist, but are usually not enforced, as I have already mentioned, and implemented, financed, or coordinated at national or local level. So there are many reasons for this. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. Sir, is it audible? Am I audible, sir? Dear participants, you can text a message that whether am I audible or not. Participant, yes, sir. Okay, fine. Sir, you can unshare your PPT. Okay, thank you, Sachin. Sir, you can, yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this information. I have query regarding this. Okay. Sir, there is one query that I have query regarding the suitable tree species for agroforestry model. Nowadays, farmers are growing fruit tree species rather than forest tree species. Sir, kindly put lime into this for promoting. Actually, sir quoted many examples during his presentation regarding the
Dr. David,
sir.
it is a question for me or just?
Yes, sir. They have asked some model, agroforestry model, which are the tree species which have been best suited. They are asking.
Okay, actually for different areas, for different, but if you see the best agroforestry models available that you can have in the northwest plains, the productive, and in, you see, under these northwest plains, the poplar based agroforestry system. This is the best and more economical. If roughly, let me give you the rough economics, not technical, rough economics. For poplar based, we are planting 200 plants per acre with a rotation of 6 years. Just a layman example I am quoting because the shortage of time. So 200 plants for 6 years, let us consider 10% mortality. So remaining 180 plants, and 180 on an average, we are getting 5 quintals of wood in 6 years. So roughly we are getting from 180 plants, that is 900 quintals. And on a, from the lesser side, let us consider the poplar rate in 6 annum. Let us say it is 1000 per quintal. So from 900 quintals multiplied by 1000. So we will getting 9 lakhs. So if we divide 9 lakhs by 6, almost 1.5 lakhs per annum. So this is the net return we are getting from the poplar. But from agriculture, because we can grow be it throughout the rotation, though with the reduction from 10 to 50%. From first year it is 10% reduction, and even from wheat we are getting more returns. Means the, let us say a layman, that if we consider all the input costs from that we can meet from the production from the agriculture product, whether it is from Rabi or Kharif. So net though, so best under Punjab, Haryana, part of this Uttarakhand, that this popular waste. Then second is eucalyptus waste, the commercial models. Then now milia waste, we are coming with milia waste. Then we are also trying with casuarina, also malina waste. So these are the species which are we are exploiting under northwest plains. In southern part we have different species. There is different concept, home gardens, then industrial agriculture. If you see the Tamil Nadu, they are exploiting acrocarpus, then this Acacia auriculaformis also, kadamba also, Anthospalus kadamba also, and so many other species, casuarina also. So in different parts, but the commercial agroforestry, which are more protective. Yes. Last question, since I have to join in another.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Thank
we
you.
will, sir, if there any queries means they will be contacting you.
Thank you,
shortly,
Dr.
sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tiwari, for giving me this opportunity because of the shortage of time. Thank you
Yes,
very
sir,
much,
yes,
one and
sir,
all.
not an issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. So, dear participants, and now I would like to invite our next resource person, Dr. Manmohan R.J. Dobrial, sir. And sir is a professor in the department of our College of Horticulture and Forestry, and he before in this college he has been the dean for this college, and now he is a dean in the College of Fisheries. Sir having his experience of more than 22 years of experience, his specialization in forest ecology, silviculture, and NTFP, and non-wood products and medicinal and aromatic. Sir having he is playing different roles in our internal capacities, and he's having many publications of more than 50 publications in the NAS-rated journals, and he is also leading many projects, both internal and external funded projects at our university. So with this small introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Dobrial sir for his presentation. Sir, please, you may occupy your dais, please.
Thanks, Dr. David.
नहीं आपने बता दिया है ना कि आपने पीपीटी बना दिया है, इसीलिए वो ऐसे बोल रहे हैं सर. वही बोल रहे थे, देखा उसने
Dr. Akash Shukla, please mute yourself.
Screen is visible. Hello.
Not
Yes, sir, please.
Screen is visible.
No, sir.
No, just a minute. Huh? Now it's visible.
Yes, sir, visible. Kindly make it in full screen mode.
Okay. Now is full screen mode, na?
Yes, sir.
Slide mode, जी sir.
Okay.
ये-
So,
slide mode
good.
में visible है.
हैं?
Slide mode
Slide mode में?
sir. जी sir.
अरे यहाँ तो उसमें दिखा रहा है. यहाँ तो पूरा दिखा रहा है उसमें.
अब सर फिर से रीशेयर करिए सर.
ये तो स्क्रीन में था.
फुल स्क्रीन में था नहीं, बैग जाते हैं तो फिर शेयर कर रहा हूँ मैं ये। हाँ, मुझे तो फुल दिख रहा है। हाँ,
Okay, sir. Now, sir, click on slide
it's
mode.
uh,
F5.
now it's in full screen mode.
No, sir.
Not क्या हो रहा है? Still not full screen.
Move.
वही क्या?
Moving. सर स्लाइड मूव कराइए। हाँ सर,
हाँ?
अब हो रहा है। स्लाइड मूव तो हो रहा है सर, फुल स्क्रीन नहीं आया।
Screen क्यों नहीं है? कहाँ जाना है?
स्लाइड शो पे सर क्लिक करिए, स्लाइड शो पे यहाँ से हो जाएगा। स्लाइड शो पे आप कर्सर ले जाइए।
हाँ?
स्लाइड शो करके, स्लाइड शो पर सर कर्सर क्लिक ऑन
मैंने तो
स्लाइड,
डायरेक्टली शेयर किया है इसको।
क्लिक ऑन स्लाइड शो। शेयर तो हो गया सर, स्लाइड शो पे बस क्लिक करना था। दोबारा करिए।
मेरे को तो हाँ, स्लाइड शो में किया है।
ठीक है सर, तो इसे मूव करा लीजिए। आप नेक्स्ट स्लाइड करिए सर, नेक्स्ट हो रहा है। ठीक है सर, बस स्लाइड मूव करके देख लीजिए। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड आ रहा है सर, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड करिए।
हाँ कर दिया, नेक्स्ट स्लाइड आ रहा है।
अभी तक तो नहीं आया। अब आया,
हाँ?
आया।
आ गया?
हाँ मूव कर रहा है, आ गया, आ गया। ठीक है सर, आप कर दीजिए।
अभी ठीक है?
जी सर, ठीक है। वो
हाँ? फुल स्क्रीन में?
फुल स्क्रीन तो नहीं आ रहा सर, वो भी प्रॉब्लम होगी, नेट का भी थोड़ा सा चल रहा है।
बताओ बताओ।
विजिबल है सर, बट विजिबल है।
फिर तो ये तो आधा ही
अभी
प्रेजेंटेशन हो गया
अभी
आपका।
अभी फुल स्क्रीन है?
मेथड तो आपने बताया नहीं कुछ, कैसे मैनेज करोगे करके। ये है ठीक है, वो तो सब जान रहे हैं कि हाँ
यहाँ
हाइड्रोपोनिक
फुल
है,
स्क्रीन
ऐसा
है।
ऐसा होता है, वैसा वैसा होता है। हाउ टू मैनेज दैट हाइड्रोपोनिक्स, व्हाट प्रिकॉशंस वी शुड टेक, क्या प्रिकॉशंस लेनी चाहिए, देन उसको
गुड
मैनेजमेंट
आफ्टरनून तो
कैसे करना चाहिए, वो तो आना चाहिए ना आपके इसमें।
ये
जी
जरा
जी
दरवाजा बंद करो। गुड आफ्टरनून, इट इज ऑडिबल? हेलो?
यस सर।
हाँ, good afternoon to all. The topic for this training is given to me, the ecosystem services and their valuation methods.
but it obviously understood that mainly the services, ecosystem services, which is to provided from the agroforest or agroforestry majority. But why we are emphasizing more on the ecosystem services and next their valuations. So as we know that in recent times, in any economic planning and policy or decision making, we quantify everything with the monetary terms or something valuable in terms of monetary or non-monetary assets to be created from that budgets. So for that purpose, we require the valuation. And ecosystem services, so far we used to consider as a free gift from any of the systems, and we are not putting any price tag on that. So whenever any government or any agencies want to give the means to quantify the benefits or to elaborate about that project, about the benefits. So in monetary terms, not able to quantify that things or reproduce that thing in terms of the what benefits we are getting. So that's why we need the valuations methods for the different ecosystem services provided by the different systems. So I just summarized in these points that what is the ecosystem services and agroforestry goods and services, what we have mainly in that, and then how what are the main ecosystem services we are getting service ecosystem services through agroforests, then ecological economic perspectives of that, ecosystem values and their valuation methods, and lastly some of the initiatives or the things to be done in the agriculture landscape for the broader uh, scaling up the ecosystem services from agriculture landscapes. So far, the ecosystem services mainly confined to the we generally used to enumerate in the natural forest or the this kind of forest wilderness areas. But now, as in current scenario of the climate change and various steps have been taken to promote the green cover, more number of trees outside the forest areas. So across the global, we are now increasing the tree cover of forest cover in the agriculture landscapes or other kind of wastelands also. So over the years, if you see the agroforestry also or agroforest creations is also more than now around 50 years, and many of the things already in the your traditional farming, we are already having trees on the farms, but their role as such other than the direct values, fuel fodder or other benefits, we are not used to quantify. But now the time has come, the ecosystem services from the agroforestry also to be counted, unlike now we're counting from the forest. So in broader perspectives, there are different services which I will deal in details, which are they are, but uh, all kind of ecosystems, either agro ecosystems or forest ecosystems or any kind of aquatic ecosystems, grassland ecosystems, all has their ecosystem services they are providing. They have their ecological values, which uh, uh, is to be quantified or put a price tag or economic value for that. Just to see the global ecosystem conditions and trends, you see the coastal, we have around 20% land area and 19% land with coastal lines. And this
The slide
this
is not
coastal
moving.
huh?
Slide is not moving, sir.
Slide is not visible.
Not move, sir. Not moving.
Now,
No, sir.
now it's visible.
Visible but not moving, sir. First slide show कर रहा.
अच्छा, क्या हो रहा पता नहीं, शायद अभी आ जाए. हाँ.
इंटरनेट स्लो होने की वजह से भी हो सकता है.
Second slide is not visible. Shall I go through the internet mode? बिकॉज आई थिंक ये जो है डाउन उससे है, उससे तो फर्क नहीं पड़ता, डायरेक्टली
हाँ
वेब से
नेट
नहीं,
की
वेब से नहीं है, वेबसाइट से नहीं है।
ओ आप नहीं, नेट का कनेक्शन सर किसके लिए है सर?
हाँ
यूनिवर्सिटी का है ना नेट कनेक्शन ये?
हाँ,
स्पीड स्लो, नेट की स्पीड कम आ रही होगी, उसकी वजह से भी ये प्रॉब्लम करता है कभी कभी।
पता नहीं फिर कैसे करेंगे।
फिर से सर शेयर कर लीजिए एक बार,
ठीक है,
और
या
शेयर हम इसको
मैं
स्टॉप
दोबारा
करके
करूँ
सर।
क्या फिर इसको, अदरवाइज आई विल पुट
हाँ
अगेन।
हाँ, रूम नंबर इधर कहाँ पर मैं आ जाऊँ? रूम नंबर इसी में है ना अपने चैम्बर में सर?
हाँ 313 में।
312 300 ग्राम में
नहीं
आता हूँ
मूव
सर,
नहीं हो
अभी
रहा, तो
फटाफट
स्लाइड
में
नहीं
आता
दिख
हूँ।
रहा है, स्लाइड मूव नहीं हो रहा है।
नेक्स्ट स्लाइड आई नहीं रही सर, फर्स्ट स्लाइड पे है सर।
हम्म,
इसको सर स्टॉप करके दोबारा से रीशेयर कर
एक
दीजिए।
मिनट,
आप सर शेयर पे जाएंगे सर, तो
एक है,
entire- पहले इंटायर किया था कि विंडो पे किया था? ऊपर से 3 ऑप्शन आ रहे होंगे,
एक मिनट इंटायर स्क्रीन करता हूँ।
क्रोम, विंडो, इंटायर स्क्रीन। पहले आपने किस
अभी इट इज विजिबल
हाँ विजिबल है सर, आइए भी।
नाउ इज ओके।
है।
यस यस विजिबल एंड
सेकंड स्लाइड आ गया, द ओवरव्यू ऑफ ग्लोबल इकोसिस्टम कंडीशंस नो।
विजिबल सर, विजिबल।
ओके, so
यस 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 सर।
sorry this some technical problems I so if you see the global this ecosystem conditions, so coastal, forest, freshwater, grassland and agro ecosystems, so in all areas if you see the trend, there is a decrease of the diversity as well as the quality of the those landscapes or ecosystems. Even in the agro ecosystem also pasture area increasing, but the other things also promoting for the monoculture. So what I mean to say that in across the global these ecosystem, different major ecosystems, there is shift and the changes are lowering the diversity as well as the functioning of the ecosystem. Now further is not moving to me. Eh?
ड्यू टू अनस्टेबल नेट कनेक्शन, लो नेटवर्क बैंडविड्थ, लो
मैं
नेटवर्क बैंडविड्थ। यस सर।
स्लाइड नहीं मूव कर रहा था मेरा।
यस यस
हाँ
मूव हो रहा सर।
मूव हो रहा, अब थोड़ा कुछ हैंग कुछ प्रॉब्लम। So again the if you see the population pressure, because most of the ecosystem functioning is also real due to the anthropogenic pressures, and the population is the major setback in that. So wherever we have the mega diversities or in there the population explosion also creating the problems and creating more pressure on these ecosystems ecosystem functioning, and ultimately the more derivation of the some of the direct ecosystem services, which again making its disproportionate sharing of the benefits as well as the conservation efforts. If you see the this CBD of 1992, and they to sensitize the public also, they are celebrating the biodiversity day as well as the environment days every years to conserve or to protect our these ecosystems, so that these ecosystem services or benefits from these ecosystems can be utilized for the general mankind in the larger way. If you see the conditions, especially the protected areas which are mainly for the wildlife habitats or some kind of the genetic pools, pools or general plant conservation purpose also, there also the situations is alarming. And it's not only just the climatic conditions changing, but also the our interference with the nature also creating these problems. And the mega diversity is not in the wilderness landscape, but also in their agrobiodiversity also changing. More of the to feed the people in agro ecosystem also, we are creating the monoculture production systems. The crop diversification is also very slow rate, and other kind of conservation agriculture practices also not that much thing. Though the recent efforts has been made to promote the organic farming, natural farming, or ecological farming, but still we see that agro diversity also not yielding that much the result which is required to functioning of these mega diversities. India is also one of them, and in India also different government initiatives has taken to diversify the systems so that more ecosystem services or ecological functionings can be taken from mainly granted from those systems. This is just to have an idea of the what we have the current status of the forest. And if you see this in that TOF is again is uh, the area under the TOF is increased over the period of time. There are 29.29 million hectares, and because the all efforts are now targeted for the expansion in the TOF only, either to, and in that TOF also major efforts through the agroforestry only, because that is a kind of you can say the measuring the benefits in terms of the farmers getting the maximum income from that from the agroforestry produce, as well as the other landscapes, especially the wetlands afforestation programs, because in natural forest now government policy is most to promote the or the conserve that forest from the native species. So most of the commercial species plantations or to meet the industrial needs, we are expanding in the agroforestry only, or you can say the agriculture landscapes or other kinds of landscapes other than the natural forest. Besides that, the whatever the forest we have, where from where the major ecosystem services supposed to be provided, their quality is also not improved. Means we have only 3 to 4% of the dense forest. So we have to look now the how these natural forests can be augmented with the more diversity and density, so that the sustenance of the ecosystem services in a broader perspective, especially the climate amelioration as well as the hydrological cycles, because we know the many of the perennial river systems also originated from these forests, and they are the major source of those perenniality of those areas. That also we have to look. This just from a single tree also we have so many products, so we can see that how a multi-purpose trees can be utilized in better way for providing the more of the direct and indirect benefits. Ecological and economic perspectives of any kind of landscapes we see in the both way. Though the as I told you, in agriculture landscape we see more on the part of the production system, while in the natural forest we see more on the conservation or protection forest concept. But there is need to be a balance to be taken between the these ecological and economic perspectives, because the agriculture landscape also some portion we need to create the this kind of ecosystem services. Some of the services we can have the directly from this, either now we are as agroforestry or integrated farming systems, or some other kind of farming systems where the perennials given a preference, including the horticultural crops and all, so that kind agricultural landscape can be diversified with the more perennials. So the services which we are getting from the natural forest, that also can be replicated from the agriculture landscapes. Like from the forest we have the so many products on the wildflowers and others, even we have the scenic beauties and aesthetic values for that. Similar way in agriculture landscapes or other wastelands, we can replicate those modules or those kind of diversified systems, either through the forest farming or ecological farming, even the for the promotion of or you can say the kind of constructed biodiversity parks like ecotourism or agro-tourism can be created. And already some of the places, this kind of efforts initiated by the public, also societies, also and NGOs to promote them. The agroforestry system covers. So one, just to mention that many of the times we talk about the different questions, especially the knowledge about the systems. But India, we require that farming quotient or the farming intelligence of the peoples. That farming intelligence not only restricted to the just to the crop production, but now in changing scenario, we have to see how the other components of the agro ecosystems can be integrated, and to educate people, especially the new generations, that how the integrated farming ways we can have the more productivity and sustainability. Because the question is that when you are promoting the wheat paddy systems in everywhere, so that creating the problem, the diversification chances are less, and automatically when the diversification is directly proportional to the sustainability as well as the ecosystem service functioning. So ecosystem functioning in more diversified system is more sustainable compared to a single crop system or a narrow, you can say, the cropping system pattern. So the question for the agroforestry ecosystem services need to be extended in terms of the making the public aware of those things, to be not only to check the production system but also other things. This already we know that agroforestry, but just to make it, we have the already a traditional agroforestry concept which uh, now wrapped with the modern scientific concept, and logically now we are talking about the agro ecosystems. So now system approach is required, agro ecosystem approach is required, rather than going for the individual field level or individual what we can say the particular cluster level. But a broader perspective, we have to see that now the traded commodities may be from the particular agriculture system, but broader perspective of the agro ecosystem need to be developed, so that we can harness this system. So it is not only in the means especially and functionally these activities to be uh, aligned with the more you can say the sustainable or long term basis production systems. There are many goods and services. We know that from the agroforestry also sustainable agriculture, land management, mainly for the food production, and resilience agriculture system, that is we'll talk later. Also sustainable intensification and increase the crop yields per area, target expansion, especially in the rehabilitated this degraded land. We know that in few years back, government tried to even the policy means that the document is there that to rehabilitate, to go for one is riparian concept. Riparian means more of the major river systems. Already there we are trying to their banks to be go for the perennial farmings or some kind of crops which are in perennial nature, so that the flood situations can be also checked, and that fertile land can be utilized for the sustainable agriculture production. So many medicinal plant and other tree species also tried around the Gangas or other river system. Also, they are preparing the DPR for such kind of farming system to develop in the riparian forestry module. Similarly, also we have the in the this kind of degraded lands in the like ravines. So in ravines also many of the lands are available, but so far we are not able to harvest. We are only focused on the soil water conservation. But now with the situation where the population is increasing, we have to move on those kind of lands. So to initiate on those areas, the most it will be more preferable to go for the such kind of ecosystem approach for the greening those kind of ravine areas or degraded landscapes, so that from the more the perennial crops can be introduced on those areas. And already under Green India Mission and Agroforestry Mission, some initiatives are initiated by the government, and we are hopeful that in coming next decades we can find those such areas also under the kind of cultivations. Then we know that the trees ecosystem services in the agriculture landscapes, right from the purification, detoxification. So all kind of services are provided. So not the direct production of wood, but other activities like from filtration, air detoxification, then cycling process of nutrient cycling, nitrogen fixation, carbon sequestration. There are also some regulation and stabilization of the pest disease control also. And many of the areas there also the flood control, habitat provision also for many of the wild, you can say the animals, and we know that there are also many pollinators or birds and other also useful for the agroecosystems, regeneration of the production, uh, information and life fulfilling that is for recreational, cultural, and spiritual rules. Because everybody cannot go in the forest. So in agriculture landscapes, also now people are trying to have such kind of solace to get the comfort in that areas. And if you see the broader specific, we can have that livelihoods, commercial use, and ecosystem services. So we are focusing. We can focus on different components from the hydrology to the greenhouse emission reduction. So conservation agriculture play will in that important role. Then also some climatic buffers, ecological buffers. We can create some social buffers. Also is required, especially in terms of the you can say the educating the pupils for the this kind of crop diversifications, and going for the landscape approach rather than the individual approach. And lastly, we need the commercial also. So because most of the industrial raw material, wood raw material is meet out from the agroforests only, not from the now natural forest. And bamboo and many other plywood paper industries are means the species are all now cultivated in the farmers field only, and they have a good association for this kind of industrial feeds. Then for conservation protection purpose also we have different tree species which are now used in the agriculture landscapes, especially as well as the other kind of degraded lands like from the windbreaks, shelter belts, and their roots also stabilize the many of the areas for the soil water conservations. The canopy also reduce the evaporation, and there are many climatic factors which are used. The core benefits agroforestry improves the sustainable timber fodder. So just to have that, what are the different views we are having? We can have this one. Now the question is coming in the most of the countries, even the globally. So this payment of economic services, payment for the economic services, ecosystem services is maybe sooner or later will also be introduced, because those especially in the agriculture landscape, even in the public landscape also, the peoples which are contributing for the conservation or the extension of those services, they need to be incentivized. So somebody has to pay for that services. Like in India, we have the we see every these metro cities, or even we take the example Delhi. So they most of the northern states, especially the hill states, their green covers are counter the heat and all other climatic aberrations of the those metro cities, especially Delhi. If you take the example, so the Delhi citizens has to pay some kind of economic services. So that kind of model also is coming. Similarly, for the some of the you can say the common resources, sharing of the common resources. So unless some fees to be paid, so resources, so then only we can make the sustenance of this. Otherwise, if you keep on extracting the services and we are not trying to manage those kind of landscapes, so over the period the degradation will be there. So it's right time to have to think about those kind of services which we can regulate in some kind of means either the communities or the kind of public private partnership, or in that model we can be seen that. Because these and the ecosystems goods and services, especially in terms of these three species, as a long term basis, if you plant today trees, it may last for next 100 years. So in that way also, especially in the protected areas or where we need this kind of long term services. For industrial users, there is no problem. There you can go for these things. So many integrated ecosystem management examples has been created across the globes, and a sustainable system has been developed by the crop diversification as well as the long-term strategy for the agriculture setup to develop. So if you see that what are the ecosystem services, so goods and services provided by the ecosystem. In simple word, whatever the services and goods, both, not only the services but goods also provided by the an ecosystem. And there are as per the Millennium Assessment 2000, there are 4 types of the ecosystem services has been listed, identified. So one of them, these are the provisioning services, cultural services, regulating services, and supporting services. So if we see the assessment reports of the large increasing number of forest ecosystem population of the species, even the we consider that the South Pole, especially the tropical areas, has more diversified systems, or not natural, but also in the agriculture landscape. So obviously they are providing more more ecosystem goods and services. There are different these 4 services though divide, but a single ecosystem can also provide all the 4 services: provisioning services, cultural services, regulatory services, as well as supporting services. Or sometimes it may be 1 or 2 services from one system only. But if a particular ecosystem is providing all kind of these ecosystem services, then it can be said that it can have a balanced approach for this. So if you see that the provisioning services, so these are the type of benefit people can have extracted from the nature, along with the food and other types of provisioning services. They include mainly the direct benefits we are getting in terms of the products actually. So most of the services we are taking in the provisioning services, and not only the forest but also the landscapes also we are getting these services. And here the direct means the monetary terms we are calculating, but there are also some of the things which need to be seen in the long terms and other services. So we have the regulating services where the benefit provided by the ecosystem services, especially in the moderation of the natural phenomena. Just the example we can say that now the this temperature is soaring so much, and the areas which has the good tree covers, especially the landscape label, they have the good tree covers. They are the at least 3-4 degrees temperature changes you can experience even in your agriculture field or in your neighboring areas, park, or you can say the other kind of wooded landscapes. So means now people realizing the things that this kind of regulatory services provided by the ecosystems will helpful to us. Unless we go for the protection of them, these also will not be available in the over the period of time. They similarly like pollination, bees populations, or many of the beneficial insect populations, so they harbor in these kind of natural landscapes. And similarly the decomposition, water purification, I already told the many rivers or small rivers especially, their hydrological cycle is totally on this forest only. If you see the Narmada and many other rivers, they originated from the forest landscapes only. They are not the glacial rivers like other Ganga and Yamuna. So their sustainability of the or perenniality of the water will remain only if the dense cover is maintained in those areas, or a proper forest ecosystem to be maintained. But due to population pressure, need more and more need for the wood products, and many times the illicit felling also complicating the means the extra extraction of those resources, putting a critical point on them. The erosion and flood control, we know that every year so many areas is flooded, especially the Gangetic Plains, Bihar, UP portion. Now government already planned that Nawami Gange project. In that also many of the plantations along the border of the means banks of the rivers they are planting, especially to stabilize the banks, because whatever the physical embankments they are creating every year, they are now they used to remain only 2-3 years, or many times also next rain itself they eroded. So this kind of tree cover of the 100 or 200-meter strips can stabilize the banks of the rivers, and so that the flooding those plains cannot be flooded. Similarly, the other climate and carbon regulations are there. We also have the cultural services. As the name suggesting, this is not as we are getting material benefit from that, it is a kind of non-material benefits, but many of the cultural advancement of the peoples from the ecosystem plays a role for the development of the cultures, especially spreading the knowledge, ideas. We know the many of the text which has been written earlier on the different tree species or vegetations, and many of the our arts, or you can say the songs, or many kind of these are associated with the nature only. Still many of the tribals, they are most of the means their ethos are attached to those kind of forest areas, and their all rituals and practices are also closely associated with the nature. Whatever natural phenomena is occurring, uh, their artifacts, their designs or paintings, they all reflects that kind of cultures of this what we have in cultural services from the nature. Lastly, we have the supporting services. Obviously, in 2010, the supporting services, again, they told that it is a mix of also, why not it is a habitat service and ecosystem functions. So these supporting services is must. Because of these supporting services, we are getting the provisioning services, or we are getting the other services of the cultural services, because these supporting services from small areas make the system fulfill. The themselves could not sustain without the consistency of underlying natural process. Like we have the photosynthesis, so the plant will grow, and then food and other products will be derived from that. Even other things also. Similarly, nutrient cycling, new soil creation, water cycle. These are all the supporting services which created to support the main services. So these are the actually to sustain the life forms and precursors of the, all other services. So and habitat services is the major one, because of the most of the not only the flora but many of the microfauna also associated with the this kind of small habitats, because they are not the best. Many of them are the good, and we know the bees, so much efforts is government trying to create the uh, infrastructure for the bee. So if the naturally those bees can be uh, what we can say the sustain, so what's the need of having the apiary and all? But over the period we have reduced those population, and in now only the most of the bees are now in apiary only, not in the natural areas, because of especially in agriculture landscapes, because of the overuse of the pesticide and all, and they means we have reduced their population. And similar case with the other organisms also, macrofauna, which are considered earthworms is another examples due to the that. So means we have to think that how the ecosystem services in previously used to be provide the more benefit compared to now. And now people are next slide we will see that when we talk about the valuation method, so all these services will be considered to what the cost we are paying for that. The ecosystem function services are the physical, chemical, and biological process, the attributes that contribute the self-maintenance of the ecosystem. But I spoke. Like ecosystem functions are the provision of habitat, wildlife habitat, carbon cycling, all this, and the beneficial outcomes from the natural environment. The people result from the ecosystem, these natural environment, or the people result from the ecosystem functions in order to the ecosystem provide the services for humans. And the functional ecosystems are normally the value neutral, but services of that in longer term can give the society. So some of the things also complicate when these managers take the decisions, especially some of the things like we have the many of the natural reservoirs. If you see the Godavari Delta, now we are extracting most of the you can see the gasoline, or in Assam you can say. But what about the aquatic life which were disturbing by that things, and the pollution created by that in the later? So because we are going for the more on the economic considerations on the national economy, national levels, so we're not looking at that aspect. Though there is provision of the environment impact assessment, or even as well the social impact assessment, but still there are questions that this kind of so there are also then many ecosystem provide the services that are public goods. Public goods means it is free for everybody, unless you are putting any some kind of problems. Problem is there.
स्लाइड थोड़ा चला गया, प्रेजेंट रिप्रेजेंट करना पड़ेगा सर, स्लाइड शेयर दोबारा कर दीजिए सर, हट
अच्छा,
गया
दोबारा?
slide।
ओके,
जी सर, लो बैंडविड्थ की वजह से
नेटवर्क इशू था सर शायद कुछ।
नहीं आया। आ गया?
यस सर, आ गए।
Okay. So there are also some negative externalities in case of, I told you, the flood situation. There are also many of the ecosystem services where the rights are clearly not defined. As I told you, in the case of the community resources. So nobody is responsible. It is like we know Treasury of Commons, the essay is written quite long back. So similar situation happens when nobody is responsible for that. So that's why the approach is that the community to be sensitized if these common resources also to be remain for longer period of times, either water resources or forest resources or community resources, whatever the grazing land is there. So they need to be protected to get or to harness the longer term of those ecosystem benefits. Aesthetic view is a purely public good. So anybody can go for the looking that, but we know that in many parks or many we put some price tag, entry fees, so that can be managed. Similarly, some are the quasi public goods means where I told the recreational purpose, so they are putting some fees, or maybe some activities are the paid ones, some are the free ones. So that kind of regulations required for the maintaining for that. Again, it. Okay. So they already said, so we have the two kind of values. One is use values and non-use values. So obviously use values means we have the material values of these things, and non-use values means non-material values. Generally we say sometimes use values as active values and non-use values means passive values. Again, use values, we have the direct use values and indirect values and option values also. So we have the direct users in terms of the some product we are getting, or even the some grazing, harvesting also they are indirect. We have this hydrological cycle or carbon sequestration. Option values also they are that assigned for the future uses. If somebody want to pay for this something to be protected for the future uses, so for that we put the option values. Then also the existence values, that is also for future purpose only, for the some aesthetic, spiritual or cultural purpose. There is also some request value which is also a part of the existence values only. There also we have the something to for the future purpose, the values to pay. Mainly some of the values we can, like direct values we can assess the material values, the values, but non-use values is difficult to assess. So some kind of relative comparisons to be made from the other things, so that so that we can have the some values or the economic you can say tag for that. We also have the consumptive values. Consumptive values for those products that they directly without the passing through the market and they clearly are the greatest importance. Rural population in developing the countries where the biological resources are collected by the mainly to improve the vast area of the wild animals, insect. So as I told you, especially many tribal communities are totally depend on the forest for different produce collection, and they are sustaining from that only produce. So if we see that that biodiversity, even not by prospected for the commercial use, but those small means the produce are very much required for their sustenance. Similarly, they also attach many of the religious cultural values. We have the concept of the Devan, sacred groups in many of the areas, like Himachal and other places. Also, many of the temple areas, and they create. So that is a kind of conservation approach where the people, because we are the God-fearing people, so we try to restrict our activity on those areas. Okay, it's for the God purpose, so we should not. Otherwise, the people harvest everything. So that kind of a kind of we can say the sensitization to be in the people, so that can be engraved as a cultural, or they may be taught for the new generations, because they will be not knowing that kind of ethos. So our ethos for the conservation of these natural resources is the key to harness the ecosystem services for longer period of time. Productive use values, we only know the productive use values only the consumption pattern or the most of the things which we are under domestication. Though there is simultaneously we are trying to whichever the having or those crops or the wild plants which already bioprospected and having the possibility of the commercializations, those already coming in the natural this cultivation land agricultural landscapes under the cultivation, and medicinal plant is one of the best examples. Many of the medicinal plant which used to be in the wild now, over the period of times to meet out the herbal industries requirement, they are under the cultivations. So these kind of productive values also increasing due to the domestications. But we have to take the balance that how their germ plasm can be maintained the natural populations also, and that can be further improved for the commercial purpose also. There is no harm in the commercializing if we develop the right. We know that our green revolution is totally on that basis only, and most of the agriculture crops over the from the wild relatives, they have been improved, and now many the improved varieties have been come up. But for that we require the uh, germplasm. And forest or the wilderness area is the not only just habitat for the fauna but also the flora as a germplasm. We don't have now the wild relatives of the any of the commercial crops now, because we not thought about in that way. We try to have them all to preserve in the cryopreservation or artificial medium. But if you try for the in situ conservation, so more benefits can be taken with the less investment. Just and already now in most of the forest departments under the new this code wildlife this was sorry working plan code 2023, not only the GIS remote sensing but also these pockets of the some specific plants, their threatened plants, they need to be protected so that their genetic pool can be maintained in the nature. Otherwise we will lost those kind of valuable germ plants over the period of times. And now the days has gone when we say that everything regenerate. Now previously people used to say the forest is a natural what we can say the renewable resource, but I don't think so it is renewable resource unless we make a balance between the extraction and regeneration. If there is no equilibrium between the extraction and regeneration, so forest cannot be said no longer as a renewable resource. And we are looking already that the rate of extraction is much higher level or degradation is higher level compared to the replenishment. So that also we have to think. So why we need that the coming the major part now, the value we need the ecosystem values. Why we estimate the ecosystem values? So as I told you in beginning also, we when we plan or when the government invest, they need some justification for in putting some money for that. So protect restore the natural environment, and that natural environment providing so many ecosystem services which if not be there, so we have to pay for that from other things. So that's why the environmental managers consider many objectives, including the environment quality, threat, ecosystem integrity, as well as the quality life of the peoples. And there we need the decisions that involve the trade-offs or allocation of the natural resources decisions that call for economic analysis. Just example, if you say that a particular pond is there, natural reservoir is there, and if some agricultural land, all the pesticide and fertilizer is coming that pond and uh, uh, deteriorating the quality of that water. So obviously, government has to go for filtering or for the drinking water. They need the more filtration efforts for the use. So the cost put in the filtration, if the same thing can be checked, some kind of the barriers or some kind of reduction in the use of those fertilizers, only two can measures. No, Either you put sensitize them to reduce these pesticide loads in the upstream areas, or you tell them that you put the penalty. That is also the another measures. But or you put the cost on the purification of that water. So if we able to reduce that load on the upper streams from where that that water is coming to that natural reservoir, so that can be reduced. The cost of the purification will reduce. So there is many such cases are there. Where similarly, the flood case I told already. If that a thick plantations or the you can say the upstream areas, yeah, so that can reduce the losses, especially in hill areas when steps lost. Many of the recent the infrastructure developments, we are creating so many roads and infrastructure, but the stabilization of those road corners is required by the plantations. If otherwise, every year the soil is coming in the rivers, and again that is eroding. So that is the common cause, and how much cost we are paying for that. That is also to see that way. So why we estimate the benefit needed to justify they decide how to allocate the public spending or to allocate the amount for that, especially for the preservation, restoration, or conservation purpose. And that's why we are talking about these ecosystem. We know that this planting 4 days, 5 days in a area that can ameliorate the environment, especially temperature. If you see the bill for AC you are paying, and if same eco-friendly hut is there, or some places where the some kind of plantations is there, or a house in that area. So if you compare with that and compare a city house, so how much we are paying for the AC charges, that relative we can make, and we can say that this must now is giving for the cooling effect this much amount. So that kind of analysis is done normally when we tag the amount for that monthly amount. The benefits of ecosystem conservation, as we already know, enumerating the measuring these benefits can be very difficult, but monetary value of ecosystem benefits we can do by these kind of relative comparisons. And wherever not practical, we have the relative values comparison. The economic value is one many possible ways to define the measure of the values. Economic value is useful to consider when making the economic choices. The theory of economic valuation in general, I'm not from the economic background, but what I perceive in that, where there we have so on the basis of the individual preferences choice. Means a particular person is paying for or willingness to pay the services for a particular services, like from a national park or some zoo, what we can say zoological park. If some visit is made and the entry fees is 200 rupees, so he's willing to pay that, and even more to be, then he can also pay. So how much he is willingness to pay to avail that particular facility or that service, that is expressed actually, and the preference through the choice of the trade-offs. The trade-offs is that the value tag, and the mark the certain constraints like income and the available time. That is also there. It has to see that purchasing power is how much purchasing power a particular people's having. So on the basis of their purchasing power, their willingness to pay will also decide, as well as the availability of time for that kind of activities for them. Monetary, there is a monetary measure of some values. The conventional economics generally accepted that the measure of the economic value should be based on the what people want, individual, not the what the government is deciding, but individual is weighing that way we are putting the value. And this the maximum amount of the thing person willing to give get something else considered fair measure, relative values, purchasing power. So that's why in normal economics, that's why government says that if somebody has the more what we can say the employment opportunities, earning is increased, income is doubled. So obviously then income is increased, so his purchasing power also increase. And if purchasing power will increase, he can go beyond the subsistence, means for other aspects also. So these kind of services which are to be considered sometimes, especially to travel along wild areas, or some kind of this kind of what you can say the adventurous sports and all. So in those kind of wilderness areas, somewhat costly affairs. Everybody cannot afford them, and everybody cannot think of the perspective use of that. So that also depend upon the individual choices. Non-monetary measures ecosystem values, sometimes it is more useful or practical to use decision based on the ranking or prioritizing the expected benefits environment. So there we have to see which benefits is more required, where the government spending is required. So particular areas, the flood prone areas is there. So emphasis, the first foremost is the soil conservation measures, or the what kind we can say, some check dams or some kind of means to restrict the flooding, getting recurrent loss every year, or some areas where there is more the case of the other activities. Or you can say the in urban areas, if very pollution, we know that in Delhi, we government through the Delhi Development Authority, they created the two, you can say the uh, parks, especially Aravali, that biological park, and that one more park is there. So what the need of creating those kind of ecosystem approach in those, because they know that by planting single or trees will not fulfill the long term ecological services from those. So they have created the hectares land of that kind of biological parks in the city, especially along the river bank, Yamuna river bank, as well as some rich forest areas. So that approach is also required, not only in the rural areas or the in kind of the forest areas, but also in the uh, other metro cities areas. If you want to see the long terms, we already know that this current situation of the temperature. So how much cost we are putting, and how much pollution also increasing for combating that temperature, to relieve from the temperature. The indicator-based valuation tools may less expensive and require the less time supply. So where we are ranking on the basis of the what we want to prioritize, justifying the our programs, and non-monetary indicator expected benefits in the long terms, especially for the larger prospectus. Valuation of the ecosystem services can be difficult and controversial for trying to price tag in the nature, but natural resources must take a different spending, and that economic decisions should be based on not only explicitly but also implicitly. Means we have to seek not only a narrow way, but also a broader perspective, how that is going to be benefit the society in a large. Globally also, we are seeing that though global this warming, so that is not happening by activity of one particular country. So that's why they're thinking that if any country is doing negative against the nature, so that is harming the whole world. So it is not the question of the my country will be safe, you know. So day before yesterday, somebody was giving the examples of the Maldives. So Maldives itself having the very less carbon footprints, very less, but it is going to be, instead of that also, he is going to be first you can say summers, due to the sea level rise, due to climate this global warming. So even if put the effort, but that's why we have to think the broader level. The economic valuation to be useful, providing a way to they justify this as the priorities, programs, pollution actions for the restoring those ecosystems. Then ecosystem values measure how many important ecosystem services are the people they are worth. Economists measure the value service estimating, though there are two already previously told that one we have the kind of use values, active values, and non-use values or passive values. Then there is also these option values, that is for the biggest values, and existence values of the non-use place. Simply knowing something exists even in the will never see use, then also for that also we want existence values. So just for the future generation's sake. So these are the three accepted approaches which normally applied to the monetary values of the ecosystem services. One is the market price on the basis of revealed willingness to pay. Then on the circumstantial evidences, that is imputed willingness to pay, and another is surveys, that is express willingness to pay. So these major use. So again, market price, on the market price method, productivity method, hedonic pricing method, and travel cost method. These most of them applied in the most these kind of service valuation methods. Circumstantial evidence, where imputed willingness to pay, the value of the some services can be measured by the estimating what people willing to pay. That only here also, but they avoid the adverse effect these services if not available, then what the replacement cost of those services or the loss from those. So damage cost, avoided replacement or substitute cost, while we compare with that the services provided. And lastly, we have the surveys. So here because some services will not traded in the market, but they are not closely related to any marketed goods. So surveys can be used to ask the people directly what they willing to pay for that kind of hypothetical scenarios, or to trade off among the different alternatives. Suppose somebody is some park, some thing is every morning walk they are going for the get fresh air and all that. And if there is no restriction is there, so if restriction is put, then what is there to put. Similarly, for the wilderness destinations, what you want to go for that wilderness destinations or not, and if you want, then what price you can pay for that. So that kind of alternatives to be taken in consider. So contingent valuation method or contingent choice method is generally applied in this kind of situation. So we will take one by one. The market price method, the estimate the economic value of the ecosystem product and services that are bought and sold in the commercial markets. So obviously it is directly giving the price values. And here we are totally economic principle. We are going that total economic benefit or economic surplus is the consumer surplus plus producer surplus. So that purely on the economic principles, we are working on that market price method, because it is directly coming in the market, that product. Where the productivity method, or we can also say net factor income or the derived value method, used to estimate the economic value of the ecosystem products or services that contribute to the production of the commercially marketed goods. To apply this productive method, data must be collected regarding how changes in quantity and quality of the natural resource affect. So that they take into consideration that also, and factor cost of the production, final goods, supply, demand, and other final goods. Especially here also the direct, but the conversion of the product, or you can say the transportation of the products, all these to be taken. Many times we see in the local hearts in most of the tribal areas, or you can say some kind of semi-urban areas, they are collecting free of the cost from the forest and they are selling it. So they are just taking their wages as a, because how much they are collecting in one day, that they are taking as a wages, and not putting the cost of the actual value of that production cost, because it is produced in the forest free of cost. So that is not. So he is just putting these wages of the collection, and on that basis he is deciding the value of that particular product, but it has a much higher value of that. Similarly, nowadays many of we know that the natural farming, or you can say this kind of certified products, organic products. So like Tasar silk in some Jharkhand or in Chhattisgarh, the forest departments is collecting those Tasar silk, and they certified that Tasar silk areas as a organic, natural organic products, and they are collecting that. So in that also the production cost they are not calculating from the Tasar, because it's naturally coming, but the collection they are the people they are hiring or travel people for collection of those cocoons and then processing it. So for that only cost, but actual cost is even the trees which harboring, or you can say naturally cocooning those things, that is also required to estimate. So there are many things which from the nature or natural forest we are collecting, but we are not doing that kind of things. So if you have the full value chain for that, and put price tags to each and every steps, so the cost will be much higher. And even after that cost, people are willing to pay that organic product. Either honey is there, many of the wild foods are also there, many of the other things also there. So that the market driven. Hedonic pricing method is used to estimate the economic values for the ecosystems or the environmental services that are directly affect the market prices. It can be used to estimate the economic benefits or the costs associated with, like environmental quality, including this air pollution, water pollution, or noise, amenities, aesthetic views, proximity to recreational sites. So in that, we are putting the relative values. If that he is going for that for place, means that availing that particular service in kind of the what we say the scenic environment or such kind of thing. So that the hedonic pricing method will be used, and where the comparative rate will be giving a threshold From that, above that, how much he is willing to pay for that particular services, that will be decided. And if they are willing to pay it, so that way they on that basis, a general views that valuation of that particular service can be done. Many of the you can see the especially in rainy seasons, water springs comes from many of the wild areas or forest areas or nearby areas, and people used to rush from those areas. Though many casualties also used to come, but some regulatory things are there. But you see, if you put the some prices also there for entry, then also they will go to those areas. Maybe some will not go, but a reasonable pricing should be there, because most of the you can say the when we have the public service or public facilities to develop, so we have to put a rational price, not a premium price for that particular service. So rational pricing we are doing. Similarly, many of the religious places are also there. Many of the you can say that what we can say uh, uh, natural spots are also there. As I told you, adventurous sports people are going in Kullu Manali and that areas also, or hill areas also. And government is many means these private players also coming in that area, and people are going to pay for their services and enjoying. But in that, how much government is extracting as a fee from those private players to manage that landscape for the future? That is the question. So that long term basis is not approached in that case, or whatever if they are putting some fees, so how much that fees is utilized for that particular. So that full dots to be need to be linked, so that a proper costing or proper long term basis management and strategy can be adopted. Otherwise, in few years that landscape will be degraded, and there will be no means a good whatever the scenic beauty we are finding. So that management is also required. Lastly, this travel cost method, as in term itself, travel cost means the cost for the travel you are willing to pay. The use for the estimate economic use of values associated with the ecosystem sites that are used for recreational pilgrimage or wilderness, and the method can be used to estimate the economic benefits of cost judging from that. Means the existing that the changes or actions for the recreational site, or some changes in the site, or additional recreational site changes. Means whatever the changes they are making, or other things. So whether still they are willing to go those places, they want to pay that much, cover that much distance for the travel, and go for the in a year they want one time, two times, so that way also they can calculate. So many places like we see the now the though it is pilgrimage, the Kedarnath shrine or Badrinath, the Char Dham Yatra in Uttarakhand, and how much public rush is there. So that kind of also there for the many of the wilderness areas also. So that is not only purely on the religious. Many people are going to take solace from the heat, from the plain areas. They are going to hill areas for 5 days. So to fulfill the both requirement of the cooling as well as the religious, and also the to see the wilderness areas. But whether we can we segregate those three approach of particular person or particular things, that is not possible. But we are putting the service. Okay, some fees for the car or license or something money for that. Similarly, a few years back, we know that in Oli some marriage party was arranged, and a government they paid government only 2 lakh rupees as a fees, but the damage is much more than the 2 lakh rupees. So that kind of approach also not good from the, because nobody was knowing that how much that immediate benefit is seen only the 2-3 lakh rupees will be there. But uh, after the marriage of people of 1,000 people came there, and they spoil that area. So similarly, the other places also we used to come these kind of instances. So the wilderness areas or these kind of natural areas is not now no more free, or they have to pay if they want to enjoy, especially for this kind of grand purpose. So the heavy means amount to be paid, then only it can be restricted, and also the that compensation can be made. Otherwise, it will be lost to the government exchequer for management of that forest again, or you can say the society in a large for the longer period of time. So that will be not replenish the damage has been caused to the areas. And that what happening in the now in the most of the hill areas, where the tourist goes and put all the you can say the anti-environmental things, all the plastic and garbage and all. You see the how the ecosystem is. Who will collect that, and who will again how much cost we have to put that management of that things. So that on that basis the cost to be calculated for that way by the government agencies or whoever looking after that agencies doing after those kind of wilderness areas. Then only we can have the actual valuation in terms of the services, means the fees for the services. So there also the circumstantial, as it is saying that imputed willingness to pay. So in that the damage avoided, that what I was talking, or replacement cost or substitute cost. So that is also to be taken into consideration. Based on either cost avoiding damages due to the loss of services, the cost of replacing the custom services, or also a substitute service. So on that basis, also many of the eco sports has come up, and the water bodies where they are done for rock climbing or they are doing. So the areas in and around that, though the local people getting livelihood, but at the longer run, that can be a short-term approach. But whether that whole area or the whole you can landscape remain protected for longer time if we are not putting a proper check on that, or a rational use of the means inflow of the public in that area. So the cost based method to be easiest and the least costly method to apply. The value, like some of the circumstantial evidences where we have to see the value, the erosion protection services of the forest or the wetland by measuring the cost of removing the eroded sediment from the downstream area. So here also we see that, as I given earlier example, either due to the not proper soil conservation measures, that all the landslides is coming in that areas, or even those water bodies are polluted due to agricultural waste, these pesticide or chemicals, or some this kind of some forest areas itself due to lack of the proper use. We see the forest fires. Many of the forest fires also intentional, and there also a damage is much large to the services. So what precautionary measure we can take, whether the cost of the precautionary measure is much the post rectification of the fire, or what are the services you are putting the fire. So why not making the fire lines to be clear in the time, so the cost involved in that and the loss made after the fire. So that we have to see, if you are putting the 20% management cost in the protection measures, so that will save the much more valuable the forest resource and these kind of resources. So that way also a comparative value every year, how much forest is lost due to fires and due to the not taking the proper preventive measures because of the cost involvement. And government has to think now that if that, or economist or the planning, wherever it is planning, in that way it has to think that how much cost we are putting in the post rectification rather than the preventive measures. If we have put some 1-2 crore rupees in the protection of those forests before the fire season or this grid season, so we might have saved much of the money, but that is not the approach. So that's why telling of the water purification service that I already told you. So here also the same question, perenniality of the river, many of the springs, you see the groundwater also many places has been gone down, because even simple rainwater harvesting, which already mandatory by the government agency means policy, but we are not following that, and it is not that one place will affect. It has to be taken in the holistic manner, so that the whole underground aquifers can be recharged. Then only that thing can be maintained. And we know the how much every year the flood water is going to be on the oceans through the different rivers. There is no mechanism of checking those things. Now the many of the areas now this kind of measures has been initiated by government, but public and large to be sensitized. Otherwise, the value of the loss from the of the top fertile soils from the areas of those flooded areas, and again replenishing that soil, because we know the soil is a valuable resource which takes a long time again making fertile. So how much value we are losing every year. And in intensive agriculture, again we are replenishing that soil with the high fertilizer, enormous fertilizer. Again, it is a negative things. So that is not the sustainable approach. valuing storm protection mainly in the coastal areas and all. We are creating especially these kind of shelter belts, wind breaks and all. So again, if we already know that in Odisha and last year, some few years back in Odisha, the coastal storms, and even in now also in Tamil Nadu and this West Bengal. So if you have the good barriers of these kind of biological walls rather than the concrete, or a combination may be also possible, that will check the velocity of the and inland resources can be protected much. So even the 10%, 20%, some protection is there, and the cost made on that efforts we have to be equalized. How much we are getting the benefit if we can invest on that kind of. Similarly, with the other water bodies, especially fish and all, for measuring the cost, stocking, breeding, and all. So this is an example for that. Then surveys also where the expression to willingness to pay. Here the contingent valuation method, as I told you, the estimation of these values, all kind of custom and environmental services, either use and non-use values, and it also most controversial on market valuation method, because here we are not taking the market as a consideration. We don't know the value as such of that things, so we are randomly putting, or maybe some secondary source we are getting some information and we are putting that random values to a public, and we say that whether you are willing to pay this or not. So on the basis of those random values, so if we have some kind of things for that. Suppose in a particular areas, two banyan trees are there. So what the cost for those banyan trees in that way? Many people are sitting on the under their banyan trees. The whole village folk is sitting during the summers in that things, or a neem tree. So that or a group may be there. So that values can be taken. Yes. The stated preference method, because it asks the people to directly state their values applying. So the contingent valuation method is generally complicated in that kind of view. But at least to have some price tag, we are using the methods. Similarly, the contingent choice method also, we have similar contingent valuation method. Here we can also estimate the all economic value services, and we as well as the values in the bed. Choice is on the basis which preferences they get, so we can have the contingent ranking in that case. What particular facilities is more preferred than second, third, like that ranking we can get, or we can also have the discrete choice paired rating of those options which are available. So what thing they are preferring first, because many of the areas having the multiple services or multiple facilities. So which facilities is first preferred and second is which preferred. Many of the, if you see the example of the most of the national parks, so some people just go for the just have a look of general is because the fees for the safari and all is higher, so they are going for that. Many of the people think that when we come up to safari long away areas, so this, so why not pay for that safari also. So that kind of estimates also people taking, give how on the basis of their purchasing power or decision making to that. So they provided the if you want by a jeep, so that's jeep. If you want by with a group with a what you can say the bus, so that can service also there. They just have a look around for that only, just a simple entry fees. So different models they have prepared those kind of things, and according to service, if person is willing to pay, he can pay and he can enjoy those kind of things. So similar for other things also. One more method is the benefit transfer. That is just to have the analysis for transferring available information. That is on the basis of the again secondary data only. Benefit transfer method, and it used in the making the cost benefit analysis, especially for designing a project and estimating the cost and all. Then we require this kind of benefit transfer methods, and we can make the investment in a more decisive way for a longer term gains for such kind of ecosystem services. Otherwise, these services will not be remain for long period of time, or the sustenance of those because functioning will not be there, so it's not possible for them. Lastly, the slide not directly, but just I am talking about the whole agricultural landscape. Why we are talking about the climate resilient agricultural landscape? Because the major talk is on the agroforestry. So why we need now agriculture to be more under the three covers, or some kind of guidelines to be there, at least every what we can say, the hectare area should have some 10%, 20% forest tree covers, so that these kind of climatic externalities or other kind of externalities can make not make much loss for the farmers. Many people say that at the landscape level we have to think about, oh, that's fine that we cannot see the individual farm level, but a particular village level also we can see the how much total tree cover in that place. In that way also we can go that maybe some having only the orchards, so obviously that orchard will be covering the more tree covers. Some having on the ponds for the fisheries. Some having the only the what we can say, the for his goat rearing, the only hut. He is not having any agricultural land, and he is rearing on the or grassland patch is there, or you can say the public that place panchayat. So the different components are there. They not be integrated in one particular field, but they at the base level they are having that integrated, and how best they can integrate this that system, and similar can be done in the larger level also. So we have to now think individual farm.
Hello, sir. Sir, you are not audible.
Not audible.
कनेक्शन आउट हो जा रहा बार बार।
Yeah, sir. Now it's okay, sir.
बस अब 2 स्लाइड और रह गई हैं, कोई बात नहीं, अगर आ जाता ठीक है, नहीं तो बात is visible now?
Not visible, sir. You are visible, but the presentation is not visible.
Sir, please share again.
Visible?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Now visible.
Yes, sir. Visible,
Okay.
visible.
Just I was mentioning that why we have to need the ecological studies even in the agricultural landscape, because now we are talking about integrated farming and all. So it is not just a 1 + 1 2 making. Just integration will not maybe solve the economic base economically, you can say but if you see that integration of those things, it has to be you can say the complementary to each others, like we are doing in agroforestry also. Just tree crop combination is not suffice. Which particular crop coming with which tree, and how that system approach for a longer period of time can continue. So it is not a short-term gain, but also a long-term basis. So soil improvement from that crop or continuous growing of that crop, but how the impact will be there. So those things can be there. It is not to see in the narrow level of the 3-month or 4-month crop like that. So that's why agroecology and agrobiodiversity is important, and here the trees role of the perennial trees and shrubs and ecological role of sustenance is required. So that whatever we are talking about the ecosystem services, that services will be derived only when we are creating that kind of landscape where the multi-sectoral role is there. And now we are moving towards the PS and carbon forestry also. So in that way also it will require. We are talking about all the farm level planning. Now we are doing at a broader level, and if that can be possible. So now we have now this kind of agroforest for the future ecosystems. If we are able to maintain these kind of agroforest of futures, so there is hope in agriculture landscape. Also, we will get the similar kind of ecosystem services, or if we are able to functioning of these kind of agroforest in the agriculture landscape. So or even the urban landscape also. So there is chances of getting the benefits. So with this, thanks to all. If you have any questions, please welcome.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any query, you can ask from sir. Sir, there is one query in chat
Yes,
box.
yes, please.
Can you quote a small example of how do we actually calculate ecosystem service of a small agroforestry farmland? How do we actually put in a numerical value?
Ah, and as I told, like in a small farm, also you can take the methodology is same only. The valuation, like a farm is there. Suppose you have planted some 1 hectare land is there. You have planted some 50, 60 trees, maybe any fashion, है ना? So if and you have the similar places nearby where you don't have any trees, so that valuation you can take the three component, how much it is adding the liter, what kind of the soil values evaluating some data will be required, or that can be measured from the secondary data, because some kind of studies will be there, it will be not the barren land. So that basis we can calculate the value from those trees to the soil or the services provided. Oxygen kitna liberate kiya hai, what are the soil values attached. Similarly, other activities which you are doing, suppose as I told, an integrated farming model is there small, है ना, in 1 hectare. So आपने pond बना रखा उसमें, from that also we can. So you have to take the values on the basis of some secondary data. Like many people are doing for the carbon footprints of the from the campus. So they are taking mainly the values of the energy used, either automobiles or means transport or the other things. But here also in the farm level, the inputs. Suppose for 1 year the crop is also there. So from that, what is the input you have taken from the input you given the crop, and what is the output? How much the input is means we can say the channelized in the system in terms of the productivity, in terms of the other benefits which you occur. So that we can quantify. So there is that's what I am telling. No, it's there is need to quantify. We are quantifying even in many people are from agroforestry. We when we say the BC ratio or of the any economics of the agroforest system, we are normally doing IRR or NPV or in that basis. In that we are calculating only the direct products, and that also the crop only, mainly most of the time crops only, even not the trees. And even in trees, if you are taking, so maybe after 6 years it is harvested, so maybe in first year you are doing, so it will be not using that much space, but some kind of notional value will be there, because this is the initial capital investment. So it is, if 1 year investment is, if we are not counting, because many times people used to say if 1 year ka trees what impact it will be having on the crops, so there is no need of. But if you see the on valuation basis, so वो 1 साल का पेड़ की जो कैपिटल अमाउंट है, अगर वो 1 साल का नहीं दूसरे साल तभी जाएगा ना वो. So we need that capital amounts to be evaluated. If you are not valuing that capital amount, so it will not result after 6 years the product. So that value is tagged. So each and every activity, if you can tag it, so that can be then. And in farm, it's right that in farm balance, when you make the balance sheet of farm for 1 year cropping system, so that way you can include whatever the all inputs are there, and what are these kind of non-use values, soil conservation values, other what you can say the what habitat values for the harboring some insect, or you can say miss honey bees or other kind of beneficial insect as well as birds. What kind of other values of the, you can say that the soil conservation values, even the soil improvement values. So that can be calculated.
Sir,
I hope it's clear now.
Sir, another question is the provisioning services of agroforestry is already valued because it is driven by a market.
Okay. Yes, it's the provisioning services are direct values, market values only. Because those products directly we are selling. Major thing is that documentation we have not uh, we are not putting the value even for the direct values also. We are not making the balance sheet of the farm from the agroforestry also. As I told the example of the 1 year seedling, no, that will cost. So if you are taking that only the 6th year, so but for first to 6th year you have put some cost on that, no. On that basis, are you getting the prices or not? That will make the decision whether I will continue with that crop or not. But generally, you say the farmers see, okay, we also preach the farmer that okay, it's bund is you are not utilizing, so at least something will be there, so that will be utilized, that land will be utilized. Otherwise, you are not putting for any use. So there we are saying the option value. We are taking that it's we are not using that, so some kind of income you will generate from that, unless putting the non-use.
Okay, sir.
I think he is asking that means how if I put value also the market if market I am not getting the market value, so what the putting the value? So provisioning services, but but you know that this much value it should give. If not giving means some loss is there. So that costing, that's why we know that we are cost cultivation we are making. For that purpose we are making cost cultivation. Away agroforestry trees, agroforestry produce, maybe we don't have that kind of system. But ultimately, whatever inputs or whatever time we are putting for that, including the land values, that will come in the total cost, and that much value to be given. That's why most of the CSR projects by the plantation companies, or you can say these uh, agroforestry means we are taking your agroforestry produce, especially wood, pulp wood and plywood. So they are giving the seedling you, and after 4 years they want to harvest it, and then they will reduce the seedling cost and your benefit. But how they are making that costing? Have you come across? That is required. The costing to be then. So otherwise 4,000, 3,000 ton or the facility, that's we are taking only the thing that okay इस लैंड को हम किसी यूज में नहीं डाल लेते, इसलिए हमने पेड़ लगा दिया, इसलिए यूज कर रहे हैं.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with this, thank you very much, sir, for giving such a wonderful lecture. You have elaborated many things regarding the ecosystem services, because nowadays agroforestry plays an important role and getting an importance in terms of ecosystem services, and it is mainly the modern concept in present scenario. And you covered all aspects like provisional services, regulator services, its valuation methods, and so many things about the ecosystem services. Thank you, sir, again for giving your consent and deliver your lecture in this national training program. We all are working under the guidance of Dubrial, sir. With your able guidance, we will develop a certain agroforestry model in our LBCO farm also. So thank you once again, sir, for delivering your lecture, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhat.
So
Shall I leave now?
Yes, sir. So the participant, we will meet again on 2:15 p.m. to start our next session. So we meet on 2:15 p.m. So thank you very much, all the participants.